and Shane Keys. Welcome to the White River Rundown. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let's just start off talking a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Where'd you grow up, Shane?
So I grew up just east of Kazee Mills. It's kind of out towards Cedar Creek, out off 160. My parents own about a 140-acre farm out there. They've lived there my entire life. I grew up out there. Originally went to Mark Twain Elementary School.
Wow.
Way down by Pro Tem for my first 8 years. It was so long ago they didn't even offer kindergarten. It was just strictly 1st through 8th grade.
Yeah.
After there, I went to Forsyth High School for 4 years and graduated from Forsyth High School back in 1999.
Do you mind if I ask you what year you graduated?
1999.
Okay,
so,
nice.
Yeah,
all right.
my 25th was the last year.
Okay, cool. My 10th was just
yeah.
Actually Saturday we did a thing that got together. So.
Nice.
Yeah, very neat.
Yeah.
So, how was it growing up on a big farm like that?
It was great. Just a lot looking back, there was a lot of freedom, anything you wanted to do. They actually have a creek that runs through their property. So the summer times was spent at the creek,
nice.
Was growing up, always something to do, chores to do, helped around the farm. Dad had cattle, horses, things like that. So, just being able to be around animals and just the outdoors and hunt and, fish, that was kind of my, favorite hobbies growing up. So
nice. Tell me a little bit about I don't know how you feel like that maybe shaped who you are as a person. I mean, do you think
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I think those values that you grow up with follow you. That's like now having my current position, I understand how important it is to protect our farmland, clean water, access to public land, things like that, to be able to hunt and fish. So a lot of people take it for granted, but my district is the Eastern District, and the majority of the residents share those same values, and that's what's important to them. We have farms that's been owned 4 and 5 generations by the same family, and so and once that's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
When the asphalt and the buildings come, that goes away, and it keeps spreading.
So, after high school, what'd you do? You just, I know you spent some time in the sheriff's department.
I did. So, I did it right after high school. I took probably about a year and a half off, just worked.
Yeah.
Want to get my first taste of, real adulthood, not going to school.
Do you do trades or did you do retail?
Retail, yep.
Okay.
I did. I worked all through high school. There used to be a grocery store here in town called Glenn's. They were great family to work for because we played sports, things like that. So in high school, they were very willing to work with the schedules because, if we had baseball practice till 6, we came and worked from like 6 to 9 p.m. till we close. I worked 3 nights a week. And then on the weekends, you could work. So they were just a great family to work for. So that gave me some experience, dealing with the public and all those kind of things. So
what other grocery stores? I mean, sorry, it's a bit of topic, but I mean, like, what other grocery stores were around at the time?
Sure,
I mean,
just one other one, Save-A-Lot. Save-A-Lot's all, it was Glenn's.
Was it still owned by the same family?
Yeah.
Trying to remember what their last name right now.
Yeah, Marilyn.
Mark and Catherine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. They still owned it there at the time, and that was basically only 2 choices. And then Country Mart eventually came in, and that was kind of the demise of Glenn's. I don't know the details, but I know it didn't help business.
Sure.
Anything.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I imagine pricing and I imagine it was a much larger store than Glenn's. How big was Glenn's? And where even was it? I don't even know.
Glenn's is actually where the current Church 316 building.
Oh yeah.
That was Glenn's. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Was that like one of the first tenants of that building?
I don't know. They'd been there for a really long time.
Okay.
I don't know who the first tenants were, but I mean, I know they'd been there for a long time because you can look back at some of the photos, and I mean, it goes way back.
Right.
Yeah. It was the Woody family.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I worked there. I think it was 3.5 years until I got out of high school, and then I went into retail.
Gotcha.
I moved over to the first one. Let's see. Worked at a couple different malls. There used to be a clothing store called Duckhead. Duckhead was really big in the South. It was just a like khaki pants, polo shirts, but it had like a mallard duck head on it.
Okay.
You can still find a couple other things around today, but
Yeah.
big in the South, Arkansas. There as a manager there, like a third key manager. Got some experience, then moved over to. I had some friends that worked at Fossil, the watch company.
Yeah.
They had a store there, so I moved over to Fossil. Stayed there quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I was working there, and Ruby Tuesday. I got into serving. I had a lot of buddies that worked there.
Mm-hmm.
And
so how in the world did you make the jump from retail and I mean these are all really relatively
Yeah.
normal jobs.
So
I mean, how did you jump into the sheriff's department?
So dealing with that, I liked being around people. I like social atmospheres, things like that. And so back in the early 2002, that was kind of when I was transitioning out of retail into 2003. We had a horrible meth problem in Taney County.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like everywhere you looked, a meth lab was popping up. I mean, it was absolutely terrible. I mean, it had a grip on the whole county. And everybody knew it was bad. Everybody talked about it, and everybody was always like, somebody should do something. Somebody should do something. I thought about that, and I'm like, somebody should do something. So I started kind of looking at that, and I had a couple friends that worked part-time at Fossil that worked at the Branson Police Department. So I started talking to them like, hey, and I started getting, they would tell me all these stories, and, they would come to work, and they would always have a story. I'm like, man, that sounds like really interesting. And so they let me do a ride-along one night, and, it was a busy night, and you just got to see people don't really know what goes on. In the community. Yeah. I think a lot of people would be really shocked if they did a couple ride-alongs every once in a while just to see what's really going on in your community, especially after people go to bed, you shut off your lights, go to bed, and what actually is going on out in the darkness, sometimes. And so that was kind of my interest. And they were very like, hey, because at the time you had to pay for your own academy, all those costs. So it was around $5,000 just to go to the academy. You had to buy all your equipment, stuff like that. I mean, gun belt, everything. And so, unless you could get on with like the highway patrol, that was the only agency.
What, they'd pay you?
Yeah. I mean, St. Louis, Kansas City, some of the bigger municipalities might, but nobody down here was really offering any academy assistance or anything. They're like, you need to go work for about a year in dispatch or the jail and actually, do it for a year and then make your decision on whether or not you want to go to the academy. So that's what I did. Went up, thought about it, prayed about it, and I just kept feeling like that's what I was supposed to do. And so I can't remember. I don't remember if I called, whatever. Somehow put in an application. Call me in. They may have kept me the same day. I don't remember. Maggie, the lady that was over dispatch at the time. I remember that I went in and talked to them, just like a verbal oral interview. And she's like, well, why don't you go ahead and sit down there at the radio and we'll see how you do. I'm like, okay. So they kind of told me what to say, and I mean, it come natural, I mean, it's just like talking it's you and I, having a conversation. You don't really think of who all's out there. My focus isn't on, I can't see anybody that's listening to this. So, you sit down at a desk space and all the deputies are talking to you. They're requesting information, whatever. So you're just basically looking that up and repeating it to them. So I did that for, about a year.
Okay. And how old were you at the time, if you don't mind me asking, when you're kind of transitioning?
Yep.
23
so
at the time?
At 23 years old, I went into what I would call the public service field.
Gotcha.
A very naive 23-year-old. I will just add that. So did my year like they suggested, something I wanted to do. So I applied for the Drury Law Enforcement Academy in Springfield and was selected. It's completely different now. Back then they may have 200 applicants for 30 spots. Ours was capped at, I think, 30 spots. So you had to score in the top 30 of however many applicants that they had in order for them to take you. It wasn't this like, hey, name your price, name your schedule, kind of like we're getting into now, just because there's such a shortage
Right.
of people going to law enforcement. I mean, and it was, you were prepared to have to go to work wherever you could get a job, because everybody that graduates are all competing for the same jobs. There wasn't really anybody sponsoring somebody through an academy like there are now. Like now we can sponsor somebody, and we know as soon as they graduate, we can utilize those people through the sponsorship of the academy. And I think they make them stay. It's either 2 or 3 years in exchange for paying for their academy. So it was a little bit different.
Sure. Do you feel, well, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, I imagine you're still pretty well connected with the sheriff's department.
Yes.
Do you feel like that lowering of the bar in terms of the hurdle you have to get over just to enter has decreased the quality of the outgoing cadets from the school?
No, not necessarily. It's just the world since I went 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I graduated the Law Enforcement Academy in 2005. It was 9 months. Was it 9 months? No, I'm sorry. It was 5 months full time. So I would work from, and I'm sorry, and I'll go back to your question. So what I would do, my shift I would work would be from 6 p.m. until I think it was 2 a.m. So I go home, get home at 2:30, sleep till 5:30. I'm sorry, 5:30. I had to be back at the sheriff's office. A friend of mine, we went through together. So we were on opposite shift. He was a corrections officer in the jail at the time. So he got off at 6 in the morning. So I would meet him. At 7 o'clock. And we had an hour drive to make it from Forsyth to Drury by 8. So you're getting 3.5 hours, 4 hours of sleep, very minimal. And that was, at the time, when you're 23, 24, not that big of a deal. But, as I say here today,
it's possible.
I wouldn't want to do that. And then I would come back, you would get out of class. I would come back to work and, rinse and repeat. But no, I don't think necessarily. I think now it's just the world has changed so much that law enforcement is really different in a lot of ways than what it was 20 years ago.
How so?
Back then, it was more meth labs and different things like that compared to like right now. I mean, there's still a lot of drugs, but I mean, you didn't have to, you never knew, you might go on a call for service for whatever, and they may have a meth lab in the basement or, whatever. So I don't know that it's really lowered. I just know that there's just less interest in going into that career field.
Sure.
With a lot of people that I talk to, and a lot of that's changed in the last 5 to 10 years. A lot of the things have changed. Policies, procedures have changed. From lawsuits and different situations that's happened that, a lot of people.
It really got damaged after George Floyd. Was a huge deal. It was just not only the public perception of police officers was degraded because of what some believed was an unjustified situation, but furthermore, the prestige of becoming a police officer, and also we're going to hang you out to dry if things don't go perfect.
Yeah,
that totally undermines the trust of any people trying to go in.
Yeah, the whole defund the police movement was, it devastated, the country as far as like recruiting and things like that, because, you saw that on TV. You saw city councils that were firing police officers, just making ridiculous allegations against police officers, and some ridiculous prosecutions when you look back at some of them, and I'm not saying all were ridiculous, because there just like anything else, there are bad officers once in a while. That there are. I mean, it's like any other thing, but those are few and far between. I mean, it's not nearly, and we live in a great area that has a lot of community support for police officers. I very seldom hear within our community, every shift, somebody's thanking you for your service, buying your coffee, something. We're just very fortunate. I don't know, looking back, and I've told people this, I don't know that I would have made it my 21 years somewhere else. Like, it would be very difficult just because we have such a great supportive community here.
How do you feel? Well, I mean, you mentioned a couple things right there. You know, buying officers coffees, thanking them for their service to the community. But what are some of the ways that you might recommend that people could support police in a good way? I know there's a guy I watch sometimes online called Donut Operator.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so he actually did some care packages at one point and like approached officers while on duty and was like kind of careful about it. But I've thought about doing that kind of thing, but that is a little sketchy to be like just walking up to some officers with a bag of stuff.
If someone was interested in that, and I'm just going to explain from my point of view as a law enforcement officer, if I've never met you before, I'm going to be pretty hesitant on any of that because that's not typical. Yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not usual. And so law enforcement is, you learn like, hey, is this usual or not? So you're always cautious. But I mean, if someone wanted to do something like that, I would go up and introduce myself maybe to the sheriff, some of the admin there and be like, hey, this is who I am. I would like to do this. That way there's something like a heads up type thing. Because we have people all the time that would, bake cakes, pies, cookies, something like that. It's a simple thank you, but we know who they are. It's not just a random person because in today's world, you never know. Like, if they just say, hey, a lady brought some cookies in that are kind of officer discretion on whether you're going to eat that. I mean, do you gamble? Do you not? And it's sad because, I know that 99.9% of the people, completely great people, no ill intentions at all. But
that pie is probably winding up in the trash.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends,
Sure.
Just kind of, it's whether or not that you want to, risk eating it, especially if you don't know anybody. But I mean, we have several local people that we know, and nothing goes to waste when they bring it up there. Trust me, there's some great bakers in our community.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Picking up from where you left off, you were saying that you were there for 21 years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's, is that enough to retire on? I don't know.
Yeah, well, so the county does, so through the sheriff's office, we had 2 retirements. So you have to be vested in both, surf and loggers. One's 5 years and one's 8 years. So after you do your vested period, then at a certain age.
You say vested, what does that mean?
So that's what they call it in order to get your benefits. So like kind of like a pension. So you have to work for one of them, and I get those backwards. One of them is 5 years and one's 8. So if you quit before that time, then you don't get those benefits when you reach that certain age. So
it's like a tiered system.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then we adopted what's called an 80 and out system. So basically your age and years of service together, if that equals 80, then you can retire at that age. So.
Gotcha.
So it's very beneficial, people, for like somebody who started off like I did. So 23, this is my 22nd year. So I would have.
Oh, you're still in.
Well, it's still because I still county service.
Okay.
So I switched positions, but basically within the county. So it goes from a law enforcement to I think a general or a different. Category. A different category. Yeah. So for people like 80 and out, so if you start when you're 23. It's very beneficial. So I think I would, retirement's like at 50, my age would be like 51, 52 to have full, I'm 45. I'm getting ready to turn 45. So basically in like at the end of this year, it'd be 6.5 more years. So 51.5 would be, eligible for full benefits at that time.
Okay.
If I so desired, but, I don't see that. I feel like I'm still young enough, and I'm hoping to be able to do this for quite some time. So,
let's talk a little bit about your time. Okay, hold on. You went sheriff's office rather than police. Why did you choose sheriff's over police?
So, to me, I grew up in the country on a farm. I'm very familiar with the rural parts of the county. So, and you have different people when they come out of the academy. Like I am more comfortable, and a lot of times out past the city lights, out in the middle of nowhere, where there's 1 or 2 houses on a road. That's just how I grew up. I'm more comfortable than that in a lot of situations than dealing with a lot of people in the city.
Yeah.
on traffic stops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have kind of some people prefer the country settings, and then some people like, nope, we want to be in the city. We want to do traffic stops. So the county, the sheriff's office, and just the way it was set up, and you have a sheriff, you have an elected, official, and you have this great big box that's your jurisdiction. You're not confined to a city, like a city circle in the county. I mean, you get the whole county. Your jurisdiction is the entire county. And so that, and then kind of I wanted to go into the narcotics field. So that is just the path that I thought would be my best option of what I wanted to do for a longevity-wise for a career.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yep, I went, so after I graduated from the academy, I went to the road, what's called the road, just general patrol for 6 months. And my goal and my passion was to go into the narcotics field because I had a friend who was the head of the drug task force, local Comet at the time. And so my goal was to be able to go do undercover narcotics.
Was this mainly fueled by the things you saw and heard as a dispatcher? Like
a lot of it, yeah.
The I don't know, was it the meth calls that you got specifically? I don't know what.
Yeah, so kind of the both, because you had all these things going on, because you had this major problem within the county that was affecting everything, people's lives, and you saw all those ill effects of routinely, whether it be. It affects a lot of things that people don't think about. It affects kids tremendously.
Sure,
when mom and dad are, on methamphetamine and, you see the abuse and neglect cases come through.
I was actually talking to somebody just the other day that had some pretty horrible stuff happen to their older sister.
Yes. And it doesn't just stop at, the neglect part. There's sexual abuse, all kinds of things, and I saw these people that were, trading sexual favors with their child for drugs, and it's just it was just a whole lot of things. But then I also was able to be part. We had a detective at the time. It's a really good friend of mine, and he let me, even in dispatch and going through the academy, he would often help the drug task force with like search warrants and stuff like that. So when I started going through the academy, then I was able to have access to that. And I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to go with the SWAT team. When you see flashbangs go off, you see guys jump out of a truck, you see doors, getting rammed, and you see, all these drugs. And it's just, to me, that's like, okay, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to help get this out of here the best that we can. I mean, are you ever going to get it completely? No, but we can do everything that we can to help combat that and make it very difficult for them to operate here. So about 6 months in, I was doing the, every day, going out, taking reports, like whatever, from everything you can imagine. And the sheriff at the time, Sheriff Russell, I just came on duty, and, and keep in mind, I'm only 6 months in. I'm new. I mean, I just came from dispatch, I'm brand new. I've only got 6 months experience on the road. I've only been off field training for probably 3 or 4 months. So, you're trying to do everything by the book. And so I get, he picks up the radio, and he's like, I think my badge number was 119 at the time. And he's like, 119, I need you to meet me in the flats. So I'm thinking, what did I do? I'm like, so, and I've only got about 5 minutes to, drive to meet him. And, cause the sheriff, he never really, I mean, in passing, good guy, joking around, but I mean, I was like, why does he want me to meet him? So my heart's saying, I'm like, what did I do? You're thinking, did I miss court? Did I do all these things? And so so we get there, and he's like, hey, I'm going to assign somebody to the drug task force. And I'm like, please, I'll do it. And he's like, no, I want you to think about it. I was like, I'll do it. He's like, no, I want you to take a couple days and think about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'd already made up my mind, like I didn't have to think about it. But so I did. I thought about it, and then let's see, that was in, I started with them, I think, in November of '05. So it was a very short May. So I graduated in May, went straight to the road,
Right.
probably around the first
Not
of
even a
June.
year in your.
Yeah, it's about 6 months,
Gotcha.
6 months,
Mhm.
which was a good thing at the time too, because a lot of people, because we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have all that. So, I mean, people that knew me really well knew that I had been going to the police academy.
Mhm.
Some people didn't even know I'd worked at the sheriff's office,
Mhm.
you know, because it was so busy in that time, you never saw anybody. I mean, you went to work, you went to the academy, you went to slept. That's it. You're not out being social, anything. So a lot of people didn't even know I was in law enforcement, and I had a very limited contacts in that 5 and 6 months that I was on the road. So it was just, I could transition straight in there, and the majority of the people I knew didn't even know I was a cop, let alone I was doing undercover work for the drug task force. And so I was able to do that for the next 3 years, which was an incredible experience.
Okay. Well, yeah, 4 years of undercover work.
I did three years.
3 years.
Yeah, it was.
You've got to have some good stories from that.
There's
Could
a
you
lot.
tell me?
There's a lot of stories.
Could you tell one? Good.
Yeah, I'll
Pick the
try
best one.
the best one. I may have to
Sure.
think. I don't want to
Oh, you don't gotta-
narrow it down, but
yeah.
as we're talking, I'll think of the
Okay.
best one. But no, it was a great experience. I can tell you there was a lot of things that the 25-year-old Shane did that the almost 45-year-old Shane would not do or even consider doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just it was wild. You know,
That's how it is, though, right? The strength is the glory of young men, but the gray hair is the crown of the wise.
I've got
right?
plenty of those, so
Yeah.
I got the wisdom highlights. So, but yeah, no, it was
Mhm.
you know, a lot of my day. You know, it's hard to tell. You know, I didn't tell my mom. You know, because obviously that's not something that they, you know, your parents want to know.
Sure, yeah.
Hey, what are you doing? Oh, well, you know, this is kind of my job. You know, I write search warrants, and you know, it's pretty limited scope of what was actually doing. You know, the day, or you know, my mom would be like, hey, you know, what'd you do today? Oh, well, you know, just hung out with some friends. And there is one story though. So we were in Springfield buying some acid and some mushrooms.
Okay.
From an individual. And my partner at the time, he had originally made that contact through an informant, but I was with him. So we had bought off this guy for a couple times in his house. And the next time my partner, something happened and he's like, hey, can you do this buy for me? I was like, yeah. It's with so-and-so. And so I'm like, yeah, because I've been with him the last two, the guy. So I go to his house, and the funny part is, so my phone rings, you know, and I look at it. It's my mom. You know, I was like, well, I'll call her back. So I just hit the silent button, and she calls again. And I hit it, and because, you know, mom. And so she called the third time, and he looks at me. It's like, we're getting ready to do this deal, right? Like, we're having casual conversation, and I was like, that's my mom. He's like, oh, it's your mom. You got to take that. So, I mean, it was just it's just a respect, you know, the worldwide respect that, you know, if your mom calls, even if it's in the middle of a deal, and he's like, go ahead and take that call. So, like, hey, mom, just hanging out with some friends. Can I call you back? Is everything okay? Oh, yeah, it's fine. I just need to talk to you about, okay. So, I just always remember that the guy was just, you know, had no idea, you know, just a gracious guy. But yeah. So the mom stories, I mean, some of those now that I tell her, but, you know, it was definitely not, you know, it's 2 a.m., you know, buying crack in Springfield or.
You do a lot of work in Springfield,
I did, yeah.
So, I mean, it's obviously out of Taney County, but it's still pretty local, and it's.
So I hit Taney County extremely hard my first year because not a lot of people knew me or knew that I was a cop. So it was really difficult
because it's a smaller community.
Yeah, well, not only that, but within that year, a lot of cases start going to court.
Right.
So you got to be there. So
gotcha.
You know, you try to minimize that. There was things that we used to do.
So they basically loan you out to Christian County? Is that kind of what happened? Or?
They loaned me to the drug task force. So we had 7 counties.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a region.
It's a regional task force.
Okay.
Yep. So we had 7 counties that we could operate in. And so, I mean, but I am loaned from Taney County. So, you know, I want to give them the majority of my the fruit of my labor, if you will.
Sure.
Down here, which progressively got harder. But, you know, we would do things, you know, we'd do like, undercover buys, and I won't go into some detail to help protect what people are still doing, because some of it's still the same. But, you would ultimately buy from people one time, multiple times, whatever the case may be. And then like when we would do a search warrant or whatever, a lot of times, you see the guys with the mask, like the balaclavas, that just see their eyes. That's what we would, we'd be helping searching in the background. That way the people wouldn't put two to two together, and also to help protect the informant, just in case they remembered like, hey, yeah, so-and-so introduced me to you, to kind of help protect them too. Because a lot of, people are working off charges because you want to move up that ladder. But I will tell this one story that's kind of crazy. So we were in Rockaway, and I did a search warrant one night, and I have on the mask, like the whatever, and there's a female there, and she just kept looking at me. And, which, sometimes people are in the influence or whatever. And she's like, I'm going to remember you. I said, okay. So I keep going. She's like, no, I'm going to remember your eyes. And she was just adamant. I mean, just would not come off this. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm thinking, man, she's high, like whatever.
Kind of made you want to wear sunglasses.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, okay,
yeah.
So it's probably, I'm going to guess, a year later, we do a knock and talk investigation, where basically you go knock on the door, hey, I'm so-and-so at the police, we got this information, can I come and talk to you, type thing. And so we're sitting there, and she's like, you're him. And so my partner looks at me, because he was present with, and we're both like, no way. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, just to see if she was, I'm like, this is wild, because it's a year later, and I had on a mask, and now I don't, during this contact. And so she's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She's like, when I lived down at whatever address, she's like, I told you I would remember you.
Yikes.
And so I was like, I was like, that's me. That's me. She's like, I told you. Because my partner and I are both like, no way.
Wow.
Because I was always worried about, appearance. You change your appearance every once in a while so somebody wouldn't recognize you.
Right.
Because you don't want to be recognizable. You want to blend in. Like you want to be able to walk into a room and nobody even remember that you were there. You don't want to have
the gray man theory
features
type
that that people are going. You don't want to attract attention and have something that somebody's going to remember you. So I try to be as normal as possible. Because some people, it's all different things. At one time I had the super long hair, the giant beard, things like that. Had that for quite a while, but I mean, I bought just as many drugs as just like I'm sitting here now. I mean, if you can talk. And when I had the long hair, though, the one time something did bother me, that I was going into the post office in Forsyth. So there's an elderly man and woman coming out the door. So I went to help hold the door open. Now, keep in mind, I don't look like I do now, and I look like the stereotypical meth guy. And his demeanor and I just remember her like grabbing her purse like I was going to steal it. And I'm just like, man, I was like, if they only knew. Yeah. But you obviously, I'm not going to hey, because they're not going to believe you anyway. But
I mean, it means your look is working, really, honestly.
And then I started focusing on that, just like what appearance, like how people, just on observation, just how people, perceive you, just like that. Or I would go into, I won't say the name of the store, a local store, and I would have two or three of the lost security guys follow me. And I'm like, hey, lost security guys, like, hey, I'm not stealing anything. I know you're, just to let them know I knew who they were, but I mean, I didn't say anything. But I mean, I started to pick up on like little things just based on my appearance. Now, I mean, they didn't know that I was actually a police officer working undercover at the time, but I mean, it was just.
How do you feel like that has, I don't know, shaped the way you thought about other people's appearances? I mean, like, I mean, do you put that lens pretty much everywhere you look now?
I'm very cognizant of that too,
Sure.
because and you learn that dealing in law enforcement. Just because, I mean, you have people that, I mean, are the best people that you've ever met, and maybe they have a job, just because they don't wear nice clothes or drive a nice vehicle, I mean, they're the best people. And you have just the opposite. You
Sure.
have these people on the flip side of that may dress super nice, drive a great vehicle, and they're doing all this illegal stuff, or things that you and I wouldn't even fathom doing, so you have to really be mindful of, because there's a lot of people there's a lot of really good people that just get put in a bad position that make a bad choice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because there's a lot of times, I mean, it's still wrong, but sometimes your heart does go out for somebody who's trying to do something for the right reason, but it's still illegal. You still have a job to do. You still have laws that you have to enforce. There's no, well, if it's because of this, we don't get to decide that. This is the law. You're sworn to enforce it, and then it goes to the court, system. That's how it has to be dealt with sometimes. But
Gotcha.
there's just a lot of you just try to always be mindful.
Yeah.
With people, because there's a lot of people like, well, how could somebody do this and that? And I'm like, well, I just thank God every day that I've never been put in that situation where I had to make that choice, whether to do that. Because we all say that, well, I would never do this or I would never do that. But the truth is, you've most likely never been backed in a corner to even have to make that decision.
Have you heard of a book called Ordinary Men?
I don't believe so.
It's a book about a Nazi German unit, a police unit. Actually, they weren't even a military unit per se, right? They were just kind of brought up, and they were older men as well. They had been brought up not underneath the Hitler regime. They didn't go to the Hitler Youth things. They were all older than that.
Okay.
So they had grown as people before Hitler's ascension, and they were normal guys. They were dock workers. They were truckers. They were all kinds of things, right? Tradesmen, and they wound up being in charge of a essentially concentration camp in Poland, and shipping off a ton of people and shooting a ton of people.
Sure.
Of Jewish people. I mean, pregnant women. Very horrible things, right? But they were ordinary men.
Yep.
And that's what the point of the book was trying to illustrate, is that even these people that weren't brought up underneath the propaganda were set in the right position.
Yes.
And really is trying to paint the picture that psychologically we're all capable of that type of thing.
Yes.
If we wind up in the right situation. And that's just kind of what you're talking about made me think of. I mean, it's
I mean, I learned that, in the criminal investigation division, because I worked a lot of homicides, and I am a firm believer that every single one of us is capable of killing another human being. It's just what would possibly trigger that, or under what circumstance would someone reach that decision. Right. Because I've worked numerous cases where, you would have bet anything that this particular person that you're sitting here talking to would have never done that, but then now you're dealing with this unique circumstance that just pushed that person to their breaking point.
Right. Well, let's jump a little bit to your run for sheriff.
Okay.
What made you want to run for sheriff?
So the current sheriff at that time,
that was still Russell.
Sheriff Russell. He announced his retirement.
Okay.
He announced he was going to retire at the end of this term, and he would not be seeking re-election.
Gotcha.
So at the time, I felt like that drugs and crime still was at the top of the plague list for the county. Just dealing with that on a day-to-day basis. There was a lot of things that I thought that there should be more focus and resources thrown to, because you have a small percentage of our population that is committing the majority of the crime.
Sure.
So it's not like, hey, we have this giant population of criminals here. It's like we actually have a, smaller cell of people who don't like to obey laws and
Right.
doing criminal acts, but yet that makes up for the majority of our crime, drugs, stealing, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, it's like, well, hey, if we need to put more efforts on focusing on this particular group of people who willingly continue to break laws and continue to engage in criminal conduct.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood how a lot of things, worked on the criminal side because I came up through narcotics, and then I'd been with our criminal investigation division. I understood the whole, being able to build a case from point A and properly handling that all the way through court, through confessions and stuff like that. That's looking back, that was a wild thing, growing up. You're sitting across from somebody in a murder case, getting them to confess to you their deepest, dirtiest act they've ever done, full knowing the consequences it's going to be on the other side. It's a giant chess match, and I always enjoyed that. And I think that, I understood that, and I understood that, like, hey, I felt at the time, probably do more training towards criminal investigation side, or how to take road deputies and teach them, like, hey, these are the do's and don'ts. Like, it's a chess game. It's not checkers. We don't want to just jump over him right now and clear it off the board. Like, hey, like, we need to, it's a lot of things like, hey, if you're not going to talk to this guy on this, like, if it's a serious case, like, there's no reason for you to Mirandize him and start talking to him, because you may not, you want somebody, as an investigator, you want at least the chance to get to talk to somebody. But if somebody's already requested an attorney before you got there, you're blown out of the water before you even get there. You don't even get that chance.
Right.
And that's something that I always felt that I excelled at, was being able to build a rapport with somebody prior to going into that conversation. Like I said, it's a chess game.
Yeah.
You have to think of everything ahead of time, like, hey, what might be the problems in this case? What do I need to focus on? How do I make sure this is not going to get thrown out of court? Because the last thing you want to do is have to explain to somebody's family who lost a loved one, well, I'm sorry, I got the gun suppressed because I didn't collect it the right way. Or, you never want to have to be in that situation. That the public is very trusting of us and supportive of law enforcement, but again, those type of things, it demands perfection from start to finish. And so I understood that. So I'm like, hey, there's just a lot of things like, hey, I think we can better do this. We can utilize these resources a little bit better.
How do you feel? If you don't mind me asking, how do you feel like the resources were being allocated? Do you feel like they were being, what were they being applied to that you felt you could have diverted them from?
So it's not law enforcement is like ever changing. So now, a lot of this, and you just got to keep up with that. And I felt like it was kind of still changing around the 2020 mark, which would have been that election, that particular sheriff's election. And so, being able to keep up, being able to, kind of do the chess match, like, hey, we need to stay ahead of this, because law enforcement is always reactionary in a lot of ways, because we're always behind the criminal. If somebody doesn't commit a criminal act, then we're probably not going to get called. So you're always chasing, you're always behind. Right. And so there was a big deal back then with all the computer technology and the stuff like that, the scamming, now we have some AI stuff going on. So it was kind of shifting a little bit from so much drugs. So they're like, a lot of these people that involve themselves in criminal activity is like, hey, man, I'm taking a risk, like we're having to go get drugs, because a lot of them would have to, you want to maximize your profit, obviously. So a lot of people would have to take, maybe an 8-10 hour road trip to go pick up a large amount of meth, bring it back. Well, man, you're taking a giant risk of trafficking charges, and Missouri law is different from Texas law, and a lot of that is down by the border. And so they're super, like, you get caught down there, like it's not good.
in Texas. In Texas,
like Texas DPS. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty severe down there. I mean, they seize vehicles. I mean, their charges are at the time was more stiff. I don't know now, but
It's a rough area.
yeah.
I've been there.
Yes.
Well, I used to work on cell phone towers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did
So
a lot of
you're-
work. We did a lot of work in Texas.
Okay.
I mean, all the way down to Brownsville.
Okay.
I mean,
Yep.
You know, but I remember. Well, we used to do welding, right? On
Okay.
the cell phone towers, right? We had these big, expensive-looking trailers behind
Sure.
pretty nice trucks,
Mm-hmm.
right, with a generator on the back.
Yep.
And I wasn't there for this one, thank goodness. And I think it was actually the right guy, thank goodness, right? A friend of mine is a competition shooter.
Okay.
He was driving, and we had heard stories about cartels in the area would steal trucks and take them across the border and sell
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And yeah, it was one of those things. He was getting lost, couldn't figure out where the tower was, drove through a residential area, and 5 guys got out of a house and jumped in a big white van, started following him, and he pulled out his pistol. He was getting ready just in case,
Yep.
but they were definitely following. Made around
See.
3 or 4 right turns, and then wound up that he was at a red light, and he saw. He was watching that rearview mirror, right, and one boot came out of the driver's side, and he blew the red light, and they lost him. But I mean,
Smart thinking. Yeah.
sketchy area, man.
Yeah.
But it's lucky they didn't reach him either, because he would have totally unloaded on him.
Right.
I mean, he's a good shot.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so
So to answer your question, it was
Yeah,
just those resources, and everything. The criminal game is
Mhm.
always evolving. So
Yeah.
now you're going into more like credit. So like, hey, I
Mhm.
can make more money, scamming credit cards than I can
right.
taking this giant risk.
Gotcha.
So it's it's a risk versus reward
Mm-hmm.
type thing for criminals. So they're always shifting, hey, how can I make, if I'm going to make $200 today, what's the easiest way I can do that? Sometimes it's drugs. Sometimes maybe it's going to Walmart
Mm-hmm.
and stealing stuff, or maybe it's going to do a burglary, or, so you've just got to, and it's not, and we've been able to, add a lot of manpower to the sheriff's office and things like that over the past few years. So
That's good.
but, it was just some of that stuff and like some ideas that I thought would be beneficial to the
Mhm.
community. So, and that's why I went ahead and ran for that in 2020. There were 3 of us, which we're all very good friends. And it was not one of those, it was basically like, hey, and the way I think we all looked
I'm
at
trying
it.
to remember. It was you, Keith Matthews, and
Keith
Brad
Edwards.
Keith
and,
Edwards.
and Brad Daniels.
Brad Daniels.
And so the way I
Okay.
always looked at it, and I feel like I can't speak for them, but I feel like they believe the same way. It'd be like anything else, like a promotion in the department. Like, if you have a administration spot open, you're going to have people apply for that. Well, this
Gotcha.
time, instead of like the sheriff deciding who's going to serve, it's actually the people.
Mhm.
And we're all very good friends, to this day.
Nice.
It actually, I would say, probably strengthened our friendships going through that altogether. So
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's really neat.
yeah,
That's really cool.
no,
It's
we have a
not a lot of people can say that about their political campaigns that
right.
failed.
Well, some of them get like completely,
Yeah.
the last one I went through was not as pleasant as the first one that I went through, being sheriff. But no, Taney County is a great sheriff, doing great things. So
Good.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and jump to Eastern Taney
Yeah.
County Commissioner?
So-
yeah.
My original plan,
Mhm.
for transparency, was basically I was like, hey, if I can do. So you had the current commissioner at the time, and you had the Eastern commissioner, and I was not sure how long she was going to continue to seek office.
Sure.
So I felt like it would probably be around an 8-year period from 2020.
Mhm.
So my goal was like, hey, I would like to do the sheriff thing for a while, but ultimately, like, I want to go into the commission side. That's just something that I've wanted to do for quite some time, but I always had
what piqued your interest about it years ago or
so
whatever? Yeah.
I think it was just the whole level of community involvement. And so coming up from the criminal investigation division, and so I was on call basically from the time I started Comet till I left. In a lot of ways, and sometimes always. I did the SWAT team thing for 5 years in between there, so that added extra on call. And so I loved going to, from the sheriff's office, community events. I love to be able to go speak on behalf of the sheriff's office. All those things, just to go to events and interact with people, because I mean there's some really great people that live here, and it's a shame that you can't meet everybody because there are so many great people, but it's just really nice to be able to be involved and help people in the community. So I wanted to get to a point where I could still do that, but there's only, when you get called out, so we were on call once every 4 weeks. Sometimes you get called out once or twice, or sometimes you constantly get called out and be able to do that. And our side of it, and I specialized or focused more on like crimes against persons and death investigations. So with those, somebody has obviously assaulted physically, sexually, or they're deceased for whatever reason. And there's, when you go to autopsy after autopsy after autopsy, we all like to think that, hey, they're all like natural deaths and stuff like that. Well, that's not the case. I mean, you have terrible, tragic accidents with juveniles. You have terrible child abuse cases that result in death. It's kind of a rough go, sometimes to be able to do that. Especially when you have kids and, you're looking at, a child that's the same age as your child, or, some of these child abuse cases that are just horrific. So I was like, I always had I laugh about this. I tell people I had a deal with God. It's not, you can't really make a deal with God, but I like to think that, I've always felt like he would basically open the doors and direct my path in law enforcement. And I would do that because I knew that's what I was supposed to do, but I was like, I want to be good at it. Like, I want to do something like use me to my fullest potential in law enforcement. And I think that's why I eventually ended up going down the path I did. I think the narcotics was able to start to be able to, I guess, understand people more and be able to talk to people in tough situations. And that prepared me for, because not very many people, oh yeah, that's my drugs, oh, I'm going to sell them. You have to build a rapport with people.
Sure.
When you're going to knock on people's door, like, people laugh because I used to have a really good percentage rate on getting into houses. So a knock and talk is basically you go up, you knock on the door, like we talked about earlier. Hey, I'm Shane Keys with Taney County Sheriff's Office. I got information. You're selling legal drugs here. Can I come and talk to you? Talking your way into a house. Because, again, we don't have a search warrant, so you got to do it on consent. So to be able to...
So you just tell people, hey, we think you're selling illegal drugs here? And
yeah, there's all different scenarios, that you can use. But the goal is to be able to be invited to their home and them to have a conversation, and then for them to be like, okay, yeah, or to either to allow you to search a home or them to be like, yeah, you know what, yeah, I am. Okay, where's it at? Type thing. So I think that really, being able to do, that's not an easy, one, it's awkward. It was very awkward for me at first because, it's one thing going and knocking on a door to introduce yourself politically. But, when you're like, hey, I'm the police.
Yeah.
And I would like to search your home for illegal drugs. That's either going to go really good or really bad. And sometimes, it doesn't go well and you get the door slammed and, you get called less than desirable names and stuff. But you got to figure out another way. So... but the easiest way sometimes is, hey, I'll go knock on the door, and I was just very successful at that.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't know I can't hardly think that would go well ever. Just being like, hey, We're here to search your home for illegal drugs.
Just
You
got to
mind
be a likable,
I mean, I guess so, man.
yeah.
All right.
So, yeah. So I'll put in a side story here. There was a lady that lived in Hollister.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Each time,
Mm-hmm.
she let me in. Yes, I have drugs. It was meth. There's always meth and paraphernalia. 3 times. So I'm sorry, I did it twice.
Mm-hmm.
The 3rd time, I was like, man, I keep getting this info that she's selling drugs again. So I'm like, hey, I'll try it. This will be a new record for me, probably three successful knock-ins. I was like, I want to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
So I went there, and so I knocked on the door, and I was like, hey, so-and-so, how are you? And she's like, fine, Shane, how are you? I was like, well, I'm sure you know the reason why I'm here. I said, I'm still getting complaints that you're selling drugs. And she's like, well, my attorney told me that I shouldn't let you in my house anymore. And I said, now we're just going to we'll just make up some random name, Sue.
Sure.
I was like, that's not a real name, but
Yeah.
I was like, now Sue, I said, you've known me for a long time. Like, what do you think? It's like, have I ever been mean to you, ever, forceful? And she's like, oh, no, you've always been really nice and everything. I'm like, okay, well, what do you think? She's like, yeah, come on in. So invites me back in, and guess what? So I get a call from the attorney later, which is she handed me his business card, and and he did the typical attorney thing, like, hey, I told her that if you came back to deny consent, I'm like, well, she didn't, and you can't deny it for her. So, and I'm like, she invited me in. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
Just funny stories that I remember like that.
Do you? Well, I'm kind of curious. I mean, you say you build a rapport with people. Are you still in contact or relatively friendly with some of the people you have sent to jail?
So some of the people in the last few years that had like major sentences are just now getting out.
Yeah.
I see. I'm also dealing with, it's kind of weird. Some of the people that I started early in my career, I ended up dealing with their kids. So it's like a family affair. I like not only did I have cases with the parents, I had cases with the kids. Most of the time, but I always treated, and that's what I always ask people, because yes, are they doing something that they should? Absolutely. Are they doing something that should be punished 100%? I mean, that is my job.
Yeah.
Or it was at the time, is to make prosecutable cases. And it's not like it's kind of like a deal, like you're on this side, I'm on this side. Like, hey, it's sooner or later, we're going to cross paths, but there's a lot of people, that, and they understand that, cause, and I always treated people with respect. I didn't lie to people, like, hey, if I said I was going to do something, I did it. And I think that's something that, I never promised anybody anything that I could not deliver or did not. And I think that's very important going into that field, because, if you're upfront and honest, even if somebody's going to get charged, they still appreciate that. Yeah. So down the road.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the tempting thing for an officer to lie about?
I think and I don't think
that maybe you resisted in.
Sure. I don't think it's on purpose, but a lot of times, like, be like, hey, if you work with us, we'll get these charges taken away, or we'll get these charges dropped. So mine was always like, hey, I'm not making you any promises, but if you're willing to do this, we will talk to the prosecutor and see what we can do. And so I would even go one step further. Like, a lot of times, if we actually physically arrested them, we had a really good drug prosecutor assistant here a few years ago, and he understood that, like, hey, yes, this is the victim, or the state is the victim. It's not like that they killed somebody or whatever. I mean, a drug possession charge, the state is technically the victim. So if you have that, and I would set them down and be like, hey, you tell him what you're willing to do, and he will tell you, being the prosecutor, what he's willing to do in exchange for that. If you guys agree on something, if you guys come to an agreement and both sign off, I am more than happy to facilitate what you said you can do. But it's going to be up to you. So if you make an agreement with this man, that's between you guys. That is on you to do what you said that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everything was super upfront. And that's just the way I like to operate. Like, I don't like surprises. I like for everybody, like, hey, this is what can be. And if that doesn't sound good, then we won't do it.
Yeah.
You know, if
Gotcha.
it's something like that. Sometimes, you know, it's heat of the moment stuff. Like back then, like, you know, you would get, you know, you might go do a knock and talk and get some drugs and be like, well, you know, I bought it down the street here. Be like, well, okay, are you willing to go introduce me to that guy? Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes be like, hey, just under the good faith, like, hey, can't make any promises, but I mean, it's most likely not going to hurt your case by cooperating. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah, and so I think to answer your question about that, I don't think people lie on purpose. I mean, can you lie to people? Yes, as a law enforcement officer, but at the same time, I feel like there's a time and a place for that, you know. And I think more of that comes in maybe the criminal investigation side, as far as like, you know, may or may not have your DNA on this, you know, that type of thing for confession purposes. You know, there's kind of a time and a place for that, but I mean, you got to be real careful there too, because, you know, if you lie to somebody and they, you know, if they immediately know that you're lying, then I mean, that's going to be not great for the rest of your interview.
Right.
Type situation. So, I mean, that's a tactic. I mean, you know,
Sure.
I've seen it done both ways, but I like to be, you know, like, hey, this is what I got, and
Sure.
this is how I'm going to prove that.
Yeah.
I like to have as much as possible and lay it out. That way, you know, I have this case. Like, you know, you're the matter, you know, and that's what I tell them at one point. You know, it's not a matter or not. We've already established that you've done this. You know, the only thing we have left to determine is like how you're going to handle it from here. Like, you did what you did. I know you did. We got the proof. We got the evidence. So now it's just up to you whether or not you decide how we're going to go forward.
Right.
So
jumping back to Commissioner.
Yes.
How did you? I don't know. First, How did you first get into the commission?
Sorry, I get down some
you're fine.
side
I
roads,
led you down that path.
side roads here.
Yeah.
So with the sheriff thing, my original goal was like, hey, if I would like to do this, because I know that I want to move in, I want to try to get a commission spot. And Eastern was my preference, just because, I mean, I grew up on the Eastern side. It made a lot of sense for me, I felt. And I could focus on that district. So I was hoping to do, if elected as sheriff, I was hoping to do 8 years there. And I thought at the time that was probably going to line up with the probably the retirement time of the current Eastern. I figured that she would probably do about 8 years. Figured she'd probably retire in about 2028.
Okay.
So the sheriff thing, it's really weird. I explained to somebody a while back. It's like, you know, the voters, you know, at that particular time, you know, felt that Brad was a better choice for the majority of those voters. So I was basically, in a sense, told, no, you can't manage the sheriff department. But in 4 years later, yes, you're our guy to manage the entire county. So it just, you know, in 4 years' time. So kind of wild how that works. But remained at the sheriff's office, and then I learned, right about sign-up time in, it's 2024.
January?
February-ish in 2025.
Okay.
That Commissioner Wyatt was not, she pulled her name off the ballot. So I was expecting on running for Eastern in the next go around, like in 2028 instead of 2024. So it kind of sped things up by 4 years. But I had started preparing about 2 years prior, so about 2022, just in case. Like, hey, I want to start learning whether it's, you know, whether she does go ahead and decide not to run again or she does. I want to start learning everything I possibly can about the duties and responsibilities of the commission. Like, I want to know everything. And so a couple of commissioners were very good about, you know, like, hey, explaining things, stuff like that. And I was like, you know, I really, you know, I've spent a lot of time in law enforcement, and I haven't felt officially released like God had released me. I knew that, you know, it was going to be his timing. And so I was like, hey, however this works. And so I talked to the sheriff, Sheriff Daniels. I was like, hey, listen, this is, you're probably going to see me at some stuff, but just know that I'm not running for sheriff again, against you by any means. But, there's certain events that are completely political. Like if you see people there, it's political. It's for political office, and it's not hard to pick up on. There's only so many meetings you can go to and be like, oh, hey, you here? Well, I'm just, trying to learn about my community. Well, that's going to work about twice, and then people are like, hey, this is your third time here. Like, buddy, like what are you running for? Because there's some very wise people at that, and, I was like, hey, so just if you see me, just know that again, I'm not running for sheriff. I want to run for Eastern Commissioner if it's open. And so he's like, okay. And so there was a lot of people, there was a rumor going around, well, he's going to, and I was like, guys, no, I'm not. Like, I'm just not, because I don't know if she's going to run again or she's not. Yeah. And I'd already told her, like, hey, I'm not going to run against you. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to wait to be able to learn as much as I can and be in a good spot. That way, whenever you decide to retire, whether that's this coming up term or if you're going to do another one, that I want to be as ready as possible. And I think you should be knowledgeable in, the career or the office that you're asking the public to put you in. So, absolutely. So I wanted to be as knowledgeable as possible on all the things, and also to make sure that's something that I really wanted to do. Right. Right. Because I didn't want to leave what I had done for the last 20 plus years, and that's what I know, and that's what I felt I was pretty good at, and then go into this and not like it. So,
talk me through what exactly the county commissioner does. I mean, obviously I know it commissions the fixing the roads, right? Right. It's and building bridges, but like
it is a job of so many hats. Yeah. And I'm still learning, and I'm still finding out that there's more hats to wear,
You took office in April, right?
January.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yep. January 1st.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And I knew it was a lot, like you said, for like our road and bridge department, it's basically managing all the county, all of our properties, budget, all of our services. It kind of all goes through us. Like, we determine kind of like as far as budget, like, hey, how do we want to allocate these funds and where do we need to go? And, that's a fine balance, because a lot of times, people see these accounts that have, like maybe a sewer fund that's got, $17-18 million in it. So like, hey, we could do all these projects with $18 million. But what they don't realize is also, we have to maintain all the sewer that we already have in the ground as part of that. Right. So it's learning to, again, it's kind of a chess game. Again, it's learning, like, hey, how does this all work? How does it all go together? But as far as that, my week, we had everything from our Monday morning commission meetings. That's everything from different departments needing things. I was trying to think. We just approved today like new radios for the sheriff's department. That was $300,000 and some for new radios. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of taxpayer money. We want to be responsible with that. But again, your men and women that are out there every day putting their lives on the line. I mean, you've got to make sure that they have equipment. Right. And we have a very good revenue from our law enforcement tax. And I spoke at this yesterday at the Forsyth Chamber, how important I think it is to reinvest, and how we're reinvesting some of those dollars from both the law enforcement tax and road and bridge tax back into our community. Because when that passed, I spoke with a lot of people. And it was very vague on how there was no guidelines on really, I won't say none. There were some percentages on the sheriff's office and the jail and juvenile and the prosecutor's office on how it would be divided, but it didn't really say what it shall be spent for. So there was a lot of discretion. And I didn't really know how I felt about that at the time, because I thought, hey, the commission can basically dictate, and not that they wouldn't do a great job, but I mean, it just, to pass this tax, 3/8 cent sales tax, I kind of wanted to know more. I kind of wanted a little bit more directive in the language on how it would be, put back out to the department. So there was a lot of people, they was like, hey, well, we probably need more people. You always can, use more law enforcement officers. We feel like that, if we're going to have them out there risking their life, that they should have the proper training that they need, equipment that they need. We had some older vehicles at the time, to keep people in newer vehicles.
Yeah.
And just kind of investing within the department, a lot of that training and equipment and those kind of things. So so this year, so in 2024, it kind of started. So for the 2025 budget, I'm like, hey, I want to make sure, coming from a law enforcement background, I have a pretty good understanding of like, hey, this works. Maybe, maybe we're doing a little bit too much. This isn't really as effective, but if we move this over here type situation and focus. So as part of that, we were able to continue to fund our narcotics unit. Also our SRO program, which allows us to have an SRO in 5 of the
What is SRO?
School resource officer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So basically a deputy, but they're just assigned to the school. In today's day and age, I'm very thankful. I have children at Esevo and I have children, one at Forsyth, and I'm just very glad that, if something were to happen, they have one, there, whether that be Kirbyville, Taneyville, I can't remember, Bradleyville may or may not still have one, Forsyth, Hollister, Branson, then we have one, but it's just important to the safety, I think, of our children, if something were to happen, or sometimes it can just deter something from happening.
That presence there can really deter a lot.
Yes. And so we were able to continue with both of those, the funding of those. And then in 2025, we went ahead and funded to get 2 things that I thought were pretty cool, and the public, very positive feedback. One was a sex offender compliance officer that's dedicated to verifying residents, making sure people are living where they say they are, obeying the rules and regulations that they're supposed to be following. And the second was the K-9 program. So that's been a huge, so we were able to get that. He's came out with me a couple times. I spoke at Good Morning Branson around 3 weeks ago, I think. I was able to, the first one I went to, they were actually in Michigan training. Yeah. And so the next one, I think that was in April. And then so this last one that I did, I was actually able to bring them up on stage and introduce them to the community. And I did that same thing here just yesterday at the Forsyth Chamber. So, very cool. K-9, great resource. So I just feel like I want to be mindful of, our community was so supportive and passed that tax, and I want to make sure that their passing of that is being represented on what we're reinvesting their sales tax dollars to the things that they felt was important and the real reason why they passed the tax in the first place. So gotcha. So spoke about that, and then another big thing is the road and bridge tax. So we, when I took office in January, we had a lot of discussion with our road and bridge department, and we felt that it would be financially beneficial to purchase a used paver, so that we could start paving some of our own projects. Nice. There was a significant amount. We estimated it would save about $66,000 a mile of asphalt if we did it ourselves. So we didn't figure the labor. That's not figuring labor because, we're going to pay hourly labor rates, whether our road and bridge guys are doing paving, if they've got to go do a project, or if they're on a grader, like whatever they may be doing. Right.
So it's going to stay the same.
You still got the same amount.
How many road and bridge guys do we have on staff in Taney County?
I am not sure. Let me think on that for a second. I know this. I'll just have to that number. I think we're around. Let's see. Sheriff's office is now like 50. I know we've got about 300 total county employees together, and road and bridge and the sheriff's office make up the majority of those. And we've added some new positions here lately, and some of the ones we had some retirements, and then. I think maybe around 50, 60 somewhere in there, and it may be more than that now
Gotcha.
because we've taken on some new positions. But
Very good.
so they've paved. They started paving. We got
Yeah.
the paver, and then it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained. So finally, in like June, they
Mhm.
got to start paving. So they've done. The numbers that I had going into 2 days ago was around 7.5 miles, which that's more now. And so far, we've paid off the initial cost of the paver, and we're about around $500,000 to the positive. So we've bought a paver, it's paid for, and on top of that, we've also saved about $500,000 of taxpayer money just on the last projects that we've completed.
Great.
So I think that was very happy about that decision. So
How many has anything been paved with the new paver yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So actually here the closest one to here is probably going to be the largest project would be the Forsyth Taneyville Road that goes up by Shadow Rock Park. You go up and around and it connects off of Casey down there. Yes, we did that one from that entire length. So it looks great, just ready to be striped. They hit the paving for a few days, and they're trying to get it, and now it's been really hot the last few days. I mean, it's so hot out there, the hot asphalt, and so they're going to take a few days to go back and stripe and paint some of the projects that we've done, and then wait till it cools off just a little bit to get back to paving. But there's still a couple more paving projects that are waiting to do. So we have a really great bunch of road and bridge men and women. So they, I just appreciate them, because we can only do that. I mean, $500,000, but we would only be able to do that as long as they're willing to perform those services.
Right.
To sit on a hot paver and be out there and take pride in what they do. So up to a standard that, that meets our standard. So it's kind of it's a long day out there, because I've been out there to check on it, and I mean, it's, they're out there the entire day, and I mean, it's a hot day on a paver, but, they're willing to do that for the community. So very, very supportive of that.
Very nice.
So, and then everything, a lot of it, public, I speak at different events to try to attend as many events as I can.
Yeah.
I feel like, to me, because in my campaign, I agreed, I was like, hey, I want to do this, full time, and I want to represent you the best that I can. So is it Eastern, Western? Yes, but I represent everybody. We go to a lot of events that's countywide. I go to East Side events, West Side events, but, again, I represent the commission as a whole. Mm-hmm. And so I like to be, there's a whole lot of things within the county. I like to go look at projects. I like to, we may have to have a vote on some rezones, and I want to go out and look at that, like maybe planning and zoning approved, denied, whatever, but then it's going to come to us, and I don't think, a lot of those looking at a map really does due diligence for me to make a decision that's going to affect sometimes a lot of people and their livelihood based on, a photo or whatever. I like to go out. I like to talk to people. I like to physically have eyes on this. Is what I'm being told? Does this match up? Type things. So we have those sometimes. I was trying to think of some of the different things that I've done this week. A lot of meetings, we have the air show coming up. I'm trying to prepare for that. Labor Day weekend is incredibly busy. We've got the air show going on. We have concerts that whole weekend at Thunder Ridge that, that really pulls on our local resources, police and fire here. And then there's another event that's being advertised. KY3 did a story. It's basically like it's the Chinese lanterns, like you see at 4th of July.
Yeah.
They're advertising tickets, and it was the landowner said that, he had no part in this. And so they've now switched the location of it. And, it's getting.
I was wondering about those things. Are they a pretty major fire hazard?
They can be, yes. That's one of our biggest concerns because it's drying out. They don't have a permit at the current place. So there's just a lot of different, and we're also dealing with employee issues. One of the big things, like it was a surprise to me here a while back, was, hey, we got to repaint the courthouse. What color do you want to paint it? Well, I don't know. So there's just some things, it's just like so many different hats, but it's really cool because outside of Monday, I mean, you're most likely every Monday going to have a Monday meeting at 9 o'clock. But
Yeah.
outside of that, you really don't know what's going to pop up for the day. Or, I mean, it can be completely, you may be picking out a paint color, you may be checking on a road.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a complaint that you go out and talk to a resident about. It's just, it's continuing learning, and it's not the same rubber stamp every day. And that's what
Yeah.
I really like about it.
Gotcha.
And just being able to be out, and I want to be as accessible as possible to people.
Yeah.
It's one of the things. I've had the same phone number since I was 16 years old. Same cell phone number, never changed it. So that was one of the big deals. Like, even on my campaign literature, it's like, you don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, I do want to do that because it's the same one I had. And, I want to be accessible to people, because sometimes you need something, or you need to talk to somebody. It's not always Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need something on a weekend. So I printed all that stuff. I still do. I still kept my personal cell phone number. It's on my business cards. I post that on everything. And people are respectful of that. I do get a lot of calls, but at the same time, it's not, nobody abuses your phone number or whatever. I mean, do you get a lot of calls? Yes, but it's just as easy for me to take that call now as it is for me to have, or for you to have to wait till I get to the office the next day. So I try to be as many events as I can. I love talking to people, and that's really where you learn about a lot of things,
Yeah.
There's been a couple of instances here lately. One of them was I was approached by a lady I know at the Forsyth Chamber Lunch, and she's like, hey, at this particular intersection, these trees and bushes, she's like, are very dangerous in this yard. So we, just simple problem solve. We went, she's like, I've asked before, but like, we just keep hitting a dead end. So I'm like, well, let me see what I can do. And I don't think, and she's like, I didn't really think that you were going to be able to probably do anything, but a couple of phone calls, meeting with a couple people, knocking on a door. It was all able to be taken care of. The intersection, now you can see. I mean, it's just being able to, and a lot of it, I think more than anything, is helping direct people in the gap between the public and the government. Because, I mean, unless you just work in the government, a lot of times you may not understand which department you need to go to and how to streamline things, and nobody likes to be bounced around, be bounced around from this department to this department to this department. So it's just kind of like streamlining, helping people like, hey, this is what you want to do, or let me make a phone call, things like that. And we have a super great relationship, while we're on that subject, with our local municipal partners and our state and federal partners here locally. It's a great relationship. If I need something, say, from the city of Forsyth, I mean, I know exactly who to call. I've got relationships with I think all of those guys. Hollister's great, Branson's great. So it's just being able to do that. We have a great a couple good state reps here that are always willing to help, answer the phone. Have a Representative Overcast and Representative Seitz. I see those guys quite often. I see Representative Seitz a lot of times on a weekly basis, unless he's in Jeff City. He's incredibly involved in this community. We appreciate that. And also Senator Brad Hudson, very, very great to Taney County. So we really appreciate that. And then Representative Travis Smith, while he was our rep before Representative Overcast, I mean, they were very, very good to this area. So we're very thankful for that. And even, Congressman Burleson's office, they're involved a lot down here. They care what, Taney County has to say. So we just really appreciate those partnerships. It just makes things a lot easier to get. When something is needed, it's great to have those relationships that we can go straight to somebody and cut out a lot of the phone calls and the bouncing back and forth. So
yeah, absolutely. Cutting down on red tape is always a good thing.
Yes, I had a gentleman call me the other day, a local resident here in Forsyth, and he's having some problems with his VA care that he's receiving. And so I made a call to Senator Hudson's chief of staff, Daniel Seitz, and he's like, have him call my office. We'll get it taken care of. So, I mean, it's nice to be able to, instead of sending him from our office, call this office. I mean, I'm like, hey, just skip all this. They're expecting your call. So it's just nice to be able to to help people
Yeah.
get to their destination that they need to go.
So, you've been doing this now for
Going
since
into
January.
Yep.
But
so
how do you
8.5
feel
months.
like it's going, and where do you want to steer things? What are some other major goals you have to take into the
Sure.
future?
I'm going to go ahead and knock on this. I feel like it's going incredibly well.
Good.
We started off the year. It was right out of the gate, some very inclement weather
Yeah.
right out of the gate. So
Right.
that's always, a decision like right off the gate. Hey, do we close the courthouse? Do we not? Different people have different
That bad rains that you were thinking about closing the courthouse?
snow and ice back in January.
Right. Yeah, that was a really bad snowstorm. To get back that far,
Yeah.
man.
So there's a lot. You have
When's the
different.
last time we got that much snow? It was like that was like a foot.
It was.
wasn't it?
It was. There was quite a bit, and I know
I
that
think
one night.
I might have been in 8th grade when we got that much snow
Yeah.
last time.
Because that one particular time, they were forecasting like it's going to be between 12 and 24. Like, I mean, we didn't hit that, but we're a little shy. But I mean, you got to take a lot of things into consideration, you know, and we try to take, because you got a lot of employees and you just got to think of a lot of things, because we don't want anybody getting hurt or in accidents and things like that,
Sure.
You got to take a lot of things into consideration on those. But started off that. Got training out of the way. The first half, not so much, but I still have a lot of invitations to court from my previous law enforcement days as far as subpoenas. So I still have several cases, and it's a little bit more further between now. But at first, because I was coming out of all those cases,
Right.
and so I was getting lots of invitations by the prosecutor to come see the judge at court the first of the year. Learning, I think it took me probably the first 3 or 4 months to figure out, like, okay, because there's a ton of meetings and trying to learn out, okay, this is the second Wednesday or this is the third Friday. So I know we have legislative affairs and figuring out what I'm need to go to or what I felt would like be beneficial, because there was a couple times starting out like, hey, we missed you. And I'm like, missed me at what? They're like, well, we have this meeting. I'm like, oh, when is that? So learning that, just reaching out, different things, I go to airport board meetings. I'm still involved with the Republican Club meetings here locally as a Republican candidate. There is legislative affairs meetings, partners in progress meetings.
What do you do with the airport? If you don't mind
So basically, we have an airport manager out there, the one there at CFO, and just kind of help, because they're funded through the county budget. So
Okay. Yeah.
So, and there's some things that we're getting ready to do. There's some work out there that we just approved for the seal coat on the roofs of a couple of hangars and a couple other things. So, and it's trying to be good stewards of the money too. So you have a couple buildings that needed some work, and then you got some more. So we thought it would be best to, like, there was 5 different roofs that needed to be seal coated, to put those all together to get a bid on one for hopefully a cheaper rate.
Yeah.
We try to be mindful, of all those things, and because that's what I tell people. Because sometimes they're like, well, why didn't you use this person or that person, or why didn't you do this? Well, it's not my money, it's your money. It's
right.
If it's just my money, I can, if I want to use however I want to, but it's not, and I want to be a good steward of that. So, and be mindful of those. So,
sure.
Yeah. So every day is a new. You never really know what your day is gonna be. So, and I like that.
I want to talk a little bit about was it Merriam Woodson you were talking about?
Yeah.
Is looking at unincorporating.
So
how would that affect the county? And I mean, how serious is that? I know it was you said it was a couple residents were talking about it, but does it seem like it's a large coalition that really wants to?
I don't know how
resolve?
large it is. So basically, like, some of their questions, I was reached out by a Merriam Woods resident about that process, and some of their questions, I don't know all of their questions yet. They have not sent those to me. I do know it was mentioned and I don't know how many people, when they say a group, that because of the road situation in Merriam Woods and some of the past problems that they've had with the former police chief, things like that, that they felt like it would be better to basically disincorporate the village and become part of the county again. I mean, that there would be a process, as far as the petition process on a ballot, voted on the people and things like. It's not something that, my office would decide directly. I mean, that would have to be initiated and everything through them. And as far as some of the questions, I think a lot of people are just really upset about the condition of the roads and not being able to generate the revenue in order to fix those roads.
Gotcha.
Because there's a lot of roads in Merriam Woods.
Yeah.
And as far as what that would do to the county, I mean, I don't know if we were in a position to take those, or if we did take those. However, if they did disincorporate, that would add. I have not done the numbers yet. I requested our road and bridge administrator to do give me an idea of how many miles or how much road are we looking at to add to our already, because we have already 650 miles of county roads to maintain. The upkeep on, inclement weather, they plow, all those things. So you're looking over like 1,200 lane miles.
How many years does a road typically last from the time it's paved until you got to repave it? I mean, I've been out east. I'm from the east, and there's like a ton of really bad pothole roads, and it's more snowy over there. Sure, but
so some of those, and I'm still learning some of this process. So on a paved road, I'm not sure, but I know a paved road will generally, if taken care of, will last longer than like say a chip and seal, which is a lot of like the county roads that we do, and I believe that's around a 7-year. Lifespan on a road is about for the chip and seal, which it's obviously less cost,
right?
But if you're looking at how
many times can you do a chip and seal before you got to repave, or
right? And that I don't know, but I do know that a lot of that's around can be upwards around it's going to be $160 some $1,000 a mile for a contractor price, which we do it's around 100. So I mean, if you're looking at which is kind of weird, because now I look at like, hey, these roads, and I'm like, man, there's 100,000, there's 100,000, every mile, of those big roads like that. So, it takes a tremendous amount of money. And then again, we do well with the roads that we have. We're currently still not taking any petitions to add new roads. However, if you add more roads, your budget's going to be this big. This is the sales tax that we're getting. Right. But then again, you see this number like, oh, well, why can't you fix our roads? Well, we've also got to maintain the roads that we've already have, or they will eventually end up like the roads, in other areas that they're wanting to get rid of, and that's not really an option. So,
okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in some of that, and some of that, the legal part of that, the whole process, that would be, and some of the, like I said, I don't have all the questions. Some of the questions, they were asking was more like, what would that mean for the roads? What would that mean for, I think it was like the sewer, some things like that, and basically, I just like, hey, if you can gather your questions, send them to me. I'll do the best I can to answer them. If I can't, we can I'll reach out to, our county attorney and see if he can help me with the answers to some of the legal questions on, because there's legal processes on some of that. So, yeah.
I'm kind of curious also about the current state of our water and sewer situation. I mean, I know some areas of the country we're still running wood pipes.
Yep.
Is it that bad here?
No. So, our sewer, I mean, it is. And again, we try to be mindful. Like, we don't want to do a project that we're going to have to replace something in a couple of years. So we're trying to use quality everything in order to, that equipment to have the greatest lifespan and be the most productive and effective as we can possibly do. So as far as like the equipment and, just everything.
Well, I wasn't going to say, like, I obviously don't think that we're putting new wood pipes in the ground, but like, I mean, like, are we still running lead pipes for the majority of our?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
I mean,
and
I
using
suppose most of this town was built after 19.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's not still, because we're still replacing some very old stuff, but that's failing, and that's part of like we talked about earlier. Like, hey, we have to have this in contingency, because what if we run into an area where it fails and we're going to have to replace all this sewer that we weren't planning on, but yet we still have to have the funds to do that.
Right.
Because sometimes things fail, and there is a lot of old lines and things like that sometimes they do fail, and you've got to get those fixed. So
gotcha. Are you is your office connected with all the utilities, electric and internet and everything else as well, or is it pretty much just water, sewer, and roads?
Yeah. So we fund. So basically, the sewer district is kind of its own entity, but it's funded through the county sewer tax.
Gotcha.
So they're kind of responsible for the projects, and so we basically allocate the funds that are collected by the county and disperse those funds to them to do the projects.
Gotcha.
The water, same type deal. There's a water district here, and as far as electric, we don't have anything to do with the local.
Gotcha.
Electric companies or
okay.
co-op.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to talk about? I'm kind of running out of topics, and I think you pretty much answered all my questions. But every time I think I have a question, you're just right on top of it, answering another one. Before I
would just
ask you.
encourage that anybody, I'm just super, super thankful, on behalf, and I bring this up a lot, and people are like, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows how appreciative I am to be able to represent them in this position. I really enjoy it. I try to go into it every day. Excuse me. At the end of the day, completing tasks or whatever that may be for the day to represent them well as somebody that they can be, proud to have in that in this office.
Mm-hmm.
I never hesitate to reach out. Again, my cell phone number is listed on any of my campaign stuff. I throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's listening, they need it. It's 417-294-0360. That's the best way if you need me. Because again, and I tell people this, like, I don't feel like it's a good use of resources for me to sit in my office and wait for somebody to call in or wait for somebody to call.
Mm-hmm.
There's way too many things going on in our community that I like to be part of. I'm trying to be out there representing them, whether that's going by a feed store or, all the meetings and stuff that we go to, looking at projects. Like, I try to be as involved as I can and be as knowledgeable as I can about some of this, because if you don't know, if you have like a limited knowledge, like when you're doing budget and things like that, then I don't feel like you're probably able to make the best decisions sometimes on that. Or, but if you go out and you see like, okay, like, well, why are we spending this money on this or that?
Mm-hmm.
But if you go out and look at, oh, that makes completely sense.
Yeah.
Or you may go out and be like, why are we not, why are we doing, like, why aren't we doing this?
Right.
It's going to be, or then hey, we need to allocate more funds to this particular project. Or, like I said, just talking to people. A lot of people I run into them, whether it be at the gas station, whatever, and they're like, hey, I've been meaning to tell you, or like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this. When they see you, sometimes they're more inclined to talk about stuff. I'm like, why don't you just call? You can call me anytime. They're like, well, I don't want to bother you. I didn't know what you were doing,
Yeah.
So I try to be as accessible, and that's kind of like been my commitment. It was to begin with, and I appreciate that as somebody in the public, as far as like an elected officials. I think you should be involved in your community as much as you can, and
mm-hmm.
It's impossible to go to everything, but I try.
Yeah.
I really do. And it's not so much even that. It's just I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy answering questions. I enjoy being out in the community. So anytime that I get an opportunity just like this, I really appreciate it to be able to sit down with you and answer any questions and about being a candidate. And I feel like that's part of my His job is just also is one of those hats is just educating people sometimes, because there's a lot of, Facebook is great, but Facebook sometimes, it's just, I see so much misinformation and people telling people how to do stuff that is completely not right. And, and sometimes people, instead of picking up the phone and calling to verify, they're going to go off what somebody else told them or what they saw on Facebook. So sometimes, especially with our local government, I mean, could not be further from the truth or accurate. So a lot of that, is my job too, is simply answering questions and help educate people on our local government, how things work, why do we do the things we do, and sometimes, it's people don't, they may not. I've had a couple people like, well, I don't think I really agreed with you on this. Okay, well, like, what do you know about that? Well, let me explain to you. And once you, oh, well, yeah, I do agree with you. Or I do think that was the right decision, because if you hear a recording, off a Monday meeting or whatever,
right,
you're not looking at what I am. I've had this for a couple days. I've researched this, and I make my decision on what I think is the best, regardless of all the other circumstances. Like, I have to do what I feel like is best and what's laid upon my heart to do. And so you're not seeing all that, you're not seeing what I've saw, or you don't know all the details. Maybe sometimes, it's a simple yes or no vote. So sometimes you may hear somebody vote yes or no, and you just hear the limited, whatever was presented that day. You're like, man, like,
yeah.
And I listen to a lot of meetings, and I mean, I was completely the same way, because sometimes I'm like, wow, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Like, man, it seems like, but then it wasn't presented, but like maybe on your own investigation or your whatever, all these other facts that weren't presented, so I would just ask that anybody, I mean, I come by, whatever, but again, usually it's better to call, because I mean, again, if I don't have anything for the day, I usually come into the office in the morning, I check emails, return phone calls, all that stuff. And if it's if we don't have anything that day, meetings, whatever, I'm usually out road and bridge project, looking at something that's coming up. I try to be involved and educated. I feel like that's my responsibility to educate myself on anything that I'm going to vote on, because you're affecting people sometimes,
sure.
Their livelihood. And so I just want to make sure that, I do my due diligence, in everything that I do. And, there's a lot of county functions, we have everything from sheriff's office, road and bridge, animal control, how do our elections work? Some days, I may go down, I may have a question about something, or somebody may call, maybe I don't know the answer to, or so I'm like, hey, you know what? Give me 10 minutes. I'll go down, so you go talk to, how does this work? How does that work? Just yesterday I was on the phone with our treasurer's office, just talking about, sales tax numbers, things like that. Talk to our auditor, like, hey, where would you suggest this comes out of? How do we do this? And and also too, there's been a few things that I don't like. Something I always did not like the answer when you ask, hey, why do we do that? Well, that's just the way that we've always done it. It's 2025. We've came a long way in a lot of things, technology, everything else, efficiency. So sometimes the way we've always done it makes perfect sense, because that is still, 30 years later, the most efficient way to do something.
Right.
But sometimes it's just because, well, that's the way we did it, and nobody's really ever really questioned it or really thought about it, because we just are creatures of habit, and that's the way we do it. So there's been a couple of those things that we've looked at, and we just try to be, one of my platforms is, just like employee retention and recruitment. We want people to be able to make a career at Taney County. We don't want to be.
It costs so much to get to train people.
It does.
And that's what a lot of people overlook.
Yes, you want to pay this much. And I mean, and that used to be the thing in law enforcement. You graduated the academy. A lot of times the smaller police departments would be the one hiring. Just because their budget was low, so they could only afford, X amount of dollars per hour. So that's, you knew that, hey, I mean, I was fortunate, and I got to stay in my home, home sheriff's department, but I had buddies that weren't so fortunate, so they might have to go county over, small PD, spend 2 or 3 years there, and then get on with a larger PD. It may take them 5 to 8 years to get to where I was at, because I was fortunate enough to be able to, stay in my home area. So, and, to be able to do this job and be able to, I've spent the majority of my adult life in public service, and to be able to do that all in the community that I live in, that's really special, because everybody doesn't get that opportunity. I have friends here that will have to work in Christian County, Greene County, vice versa. So to me, to be able to spend all that time here locally at our sheriff's office, in the same county that I live in, and then still be able to continue to serve, the same exact area that I grew up, I still live in, my kids go to school in. To me, that has more value to me. So it's I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So.
If you don't mind, could I talk a little bit about your family?
Sure.
Yeah. How did you and your wife meet?
So my wife and I met. So she actually works for the circuit clerk's office.
Okay.
So, yeah. So as part of that, at the time, being a detective, there was a lot of search warrants, paperwork like that deals directly with that office. So that's how we met.
Gotcha. Was this after your long hair and beard phase? Or?
It was after. Yes,
okay,
it was after.
I can imagine that helped a little bit at least.
Yes. So we got we have 3 kiddos.
Tell me about them.
Sure.
Or limited as much as you want. But.
So I have a son. He's getting ready to turn 16 here on the 20th.
Is he driving now?
Coming up. Well, we're doing the whole. He's got his permit.
Okay.
So we're doing the whole practice thing in preparation. I think he's going to want to probably practice a little bit longer.
Yeah.
He's like me in a lot of ways. It's like, these are the rules, this is how you do it. He's kind of like the cop mentality, not I would saying that I would want my son to go into law enforcement, just to be clear, but I mean, he has that these are the rules, this is how we do things. So he's I was laughing the other day. I mean, he is both hands on the wheel, a solid 45 miles an hour and a 55. Like son, we're gonna have to speed up a little bit, but he's just very cognizant of if 55 is the speed, I don't want to go over there.
Has he got his first car yet?
So
or
no,
are you looking for one? Or
yeah, we're still looking.
Gotcha.
We're having him drive different things. I drive a truck. My wife has a smaller SUV.
Yeah, and
then we're trying to have him drive different things to see what he's most comfortable in.
Sure.
And see how that is. So he's getting ready to turn 16. He's starting his sophomore year. I have one daughter. She's getting ready to turn 14. On the 20th also. So we got 2 birthdays on the same day. And then she will be going into 8th grade. And then my other daughter is also, she's just turned 13, but she's going into 8th grade also.
Gotcha.
One's in the August birthday, one's in the June. So they're same grade, but the age difference. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So one was born kind of before the cutoff, and one's
gotcha.
So they're getting ready to start back. So
cool.
Yeah.
How are they doing? Are they interested in sports or anything? Do sports?
Yeah. So we got. I think they all play basketball. We've got. One that's volleyball and track, and then I think one is also going to do. I think she's being kind of recruited pretty hard right now to start playing softball. So we may add softball into the mix. So not that we didn't have any spare time otherwise, but So they enjoy that.
Very good.
So very supportive of what I do. Obviously, and this is better, right now as far as like family time and stuff like that.
Yeah. I can imagine your wife probably feels a little bit better about you not being out doing cop stuff all the time now.
Because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't tell her.
Sure.
You can't tell like, hey, I got to go to work. Where you go? I got to go to work, And that's just for, and it's not that, you hate that, but, it's usually like, I got to go serve a search warrant or, because sometimes you get a call like, hey, this is, and that's what everybody asks me. I think that's the biggest question that I get is, do you miss it? Of course there's certain things that you miss.
Right. But there's a lot of things that 25-year-old Shane would have done that 45-year-old Shane will not do.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. And I tell them that, but I mean, it's, I don't, it was rough a lot of times, all the middle of the night call outs, things like that, having to, if like, hey, I was supposed to take the kids to school in the morning, like whatever. Now you got to make arrangements. Because, she works as circuit clerk, so, they may have a jury or something. She has to be there early. So you have your plan all laid out. And then before, like, that gets totally, destroyed, all those plans in the middle of the night, or like, hey, I'm not going to be able to get off work at 5. I don't know when I'm going to be home. Or
you still have family around the area?
I do.
Yeah,
yep.
I bet that was a big help.
Yep. All my family. Yep. My parents super supportive. I remember a couple times, like, having to, because she's got to go to training sometimes and stuff too. So, I remember, one time, it's like 3 a.m. and I get called out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's not there. I've got the kids and I'm supposed to take to school. Well, now I can't really do that. And at the time they weren't really old enough to leave by themselves. So then I've got to load up the kids at 3 o'clock in the morning, call my parents, drive 20 minutes, say, hey, can you watch them until I get back? I'll be back as soon as I can. I don't know when that's going to be. That could be 10 o'clock or that could be tomorrow night. I don't know. But, and I think just being able to do like the normal stuff, like there's been a couple days that, we ride together to work, which I haven't been able to do that in 20 years. So,
yeah.
Just random things. But I mean, you do. I miss some of the guys. I mean, you do develop a bond, especially in law enforcement, working with people. I mean, because you're ultimately risking your life together.
Yeah.
Especially on SWAT teams, things like that.
Sure.
Serving search warrants. So, you do have a bond with those guys. So, but the good thing is I just switched buildings basically,
right.
Different building by the courthouse. So, and I still come by and I still see a lot of those guys and, we may grab lunch or something sometimes. So
I have heard, I had no experience with it myself, but I've heard that actually law enforcement is actually kind of a worse area as far as PTSD is concerned than even the military in some ways, because, if you, in Iraq, you can at least have some dissociation. Yeah. It can kind of seem like a bad dream to you that you came back and now it's normal again. Whereas here it's like you're surrounded by for lack of a better way of thinking about it, I guess the bottom 10% of society and the harm that they cause, on a constant basis. Do you feel like that's true?
I mean,
you can't go away from it.
Right. And I can only speak from the law enforcement side. But I do know that, they say, the average person might see, it's a very limited, it's like less than 5, 2 or 3 traumatic events in their life, where the law enforcement officer sees hundreds.
Right.
And then, that's at that level. And then if you do criminal investigations and like that, then you're multiplying that. Mm-hmm. It's everything is bad. So yeah, there is a very high PTSD rate. That was always something, even in the start of my career, that it wasn't really talked about. Mm-hmm. Like it was a weakness.
Yeah.
Like it was just a weakness. Like, so you didn't really talk about it, or you would handle it some other way that was not healthy. Or
I can imagine too that like being in those situations, you see the bad part of society that you're living in.
Yeah.
And then you have some kind of trauma of some sort and you don't want to talk about it, because if you talk about it, you're going to go talk to a psych and they're going to probably take away your weapon in this area.
There was that fear.
Sure.
There was. And, because you never know what you're going to see. You're seeing stuff, and it's like that with, us, fire, like whatever. I mean, I truly believe that you're seeing stuff that, God never intended for us to have to see.
Sure.
But, that decision was made long before us, back in the garden. But at the same time, and you deal with that, and you prepare for that, and, you're around other people with that. There's been multiple instances that I can think of that were absolutely tragic, horrific, from car crashes to homicides to the whole duck boat tragedy. You know, I was on that. There, you know, that was a major, you know, that was one of the mass casualty things that, you know, and there was a lot of debriefing, but, you know, I still have friends that still have a very, very hard time with that, you know, and it may be just from seeing one of the new modified duck boats.
I was kind of curious. How do you feel about those new duck boats now?
You know, I don't know.
Are they any better?
They're supposed to be. I mean, I don't know. I see them out and about sometimes. I haven't saw one in a little while. I know I did see several. I would think that they would have to have undergone a lot of modifications in order to still operate those.
Right.
But yeah, that was one that.
It's not the same company. Right.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I think it's really, well, I don't know. You know more about it than I would, but I mean, obviously it was a bad decision to go out in that weather with that duck. But
for sure,
and I think that's probably where the stem of, you know, obviously we could have saved everybody if we did that. But I mean, as far as the actual thing capsizing, I heard on Facebook that that the screens were down, or the side things were down to help keep out the weather, and I mean that would be a nightmare to be in.
I don't remember. I know that there was I think it was like the Coast Guard report or some of the reports and the details with some of that court, but I don't recall exactly all of those. But I know there was some other factors that I think inhibited some. Maybe people getting out, I think so.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that was and there's been several of that, you know, child drownings, things like that. That I mean, you know, they're extremely awful circumstances that, you know, people struggle with that. But at the same time, that stigma has kind of been lifted, and now the sheriff's office, the Sheriff Daniels, they adopted a policy. So now and I can't remember how often, maybe like once a year, you actually go up somewhere and speak with someone just as a check-in, you know, and it's, I didn't know really how I would feel about that my first time because, you know, all the past and stuff like that, but super, super great lady. Really glad that I did. Because sometimes, I mean, the whole thing is, you know, I had a friend and I didn't know he did the same, basically the same job that I did, only at another department. And I never knew him to have any problems at all with anything. I mean, he was kind of like the go-to guy, you know, a lot of times, like if you could pick one guy that, I mean, you were sure that wasn't going to be bothered, like that would have been him. And it was 3 or 4 years ago. I hadn't talked to him in quite some time, and I talked to him, and he's like, Shane, I'm having problems. I'm like, well, you know, what's up? Like, and he's like, and I told him kind of what I was planning on doing. He's like, just don't stay too long. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I was good until I got that one case that I wasn't good. He's like, just don't stay too long till you do get that case. It's going to, you know, make you have problems. So that always kind of stood in the back of my mind. He's like, I'm dealing with my problems, you know, like I'm handling it. And he was going to some therapy, things like that. But I mean, to me, that was just an example of it can happen to anyone.
Sure.
So,
yeah,
you know, it was somebody in real life that I knew, and you know, as far as I knew, he never did. He said he didn't have any, but, you know, he just got the one case that, you know, he's like, I have a lot of problems with that case. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I need to wrap up. I got to get going.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you so much for talking with me.
Absolutely.
I would ask normally about this time where people could find you, but you've already given your phone number out.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's
phone number
one
again.
Great way.
That's the best way again. 417-294-0360. You can call our office at the commission office.
Do you have any social media that you try
I
to
do.
post on and let people know the projects that are going on and stuff?
I don't do a whole lot of that, and really and truly, and I'm going to try to be better about that. I posted a couple things. I still have just my personal page, just Shane Keys, or I have
on
my
Facebook?
campaign page. Yeah, on
Okay.
Facebook. I don't. That's the only thing I really post on.
Gotcha.
And then my campaign page, I still have Shane Keys for Eastern District Commissioner.
Okay.
It's just been, learning this job, and just it's been so busy and things like that, as far as like social media.
Yeah.
But we'll try to probably, going into the fall, maybe the first of the year, try to maybe do a little bit more updates. Sometimes I often forget. We go to so many things, and I see so many people at events and stuff that I forget to go back and post or post ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
That just anytime call. Like I said, if you're gonna come by the office, you might give me a call, because again, like, I don't think you should pay me to sit back there with my feet up. So if nothing's going on, so I'm probably out going to whatever I can that day.
Probably not going on vacation.
Yeah. No, I have not been on vacation yet. So we're not, probably not going to do that. We just ended up, we built a house here recently.
Nice.
Still doing some things like that.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm a house nerd. What kind of house?
So what's that?
I'm a house nerd. What kind of house did you make? Is it like a
It's a stick
modern
built
farmhouse style stick house?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
So nothing crazy. It's
All
stick
right,
built.
okay.
So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so we still got some projects and stuff like that to do. That was rough, because we started in the middle of the campaign,
Mm-hmm.
or when we started and then went into
odd
the
timing.
campaign. It's just the way it worked, because I'm like, building a house is stressful enough, but then you had a campaign all last summer, so
Right.
we're getting some of that done. So, but we're actually looking for next year. I think we've got a couple options to go somewhere next year. So
Great.
summer's already flew by. Kids are going back to school, so
I know,
think we're
Yeah.
past the vacation point at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Shane Keys.
Yes, thank you.
I would love to have you on again sometime
Yes,
in the future.
absolutely. And if you have questions, whatever, or certain topics, I'd be happy to come by anytime and discuss those in depth, or whatever you would like.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.